Hi to anyone that watches the video, because I certainly won't have any viewers anytime soon. Welcome to OmniCore, a Star Citizen themed and featured app. The app uses Star Citizen features and to make HOTAS setup incredibly customized and as close to the game as possible. That doesn't mean that the app couldn't be adjusted, slightly redeveloped to suit other games and be multi-purpose. So if you happen to be watching this and not a Star Citizen or Squadron 42 player, but you're interested in what you see, then get in touch. Follow me and chat. We'll talk about adapting it to other games. There is still some issues with this app, so I'm not streaming. As you can see, if in the top left, it does say alpha, which anyone who has followed Star Citizen since 2000 or any time really should be familiar with alpha and what that means. I've been following Star Citizen since 2013, a backer since 2013. I have played on and off during that time, and I've even had a moment where I thought, I'll never come back to the game. Life got busy, the whole task was in the cupboard, and I had already gone through changes of PC, then discovered that I don't have my whole task configuration. By the time by the time I configured it, something else would come up in life. I would get busy again. I would never really play the game for long. Only ever really knew the hangar and whatever ship I was lucky to have until recently. Squadron 42 is on its way. It makes absolute sense to get back in to Star Citizen. So here I am, this time, not a spreadsheet that I deleted. This time, I've created an app and it's 100 hours. I'm going into this app. As I've said, it's not ready for use. A couple of issues within here. So this is an early connection to the community to test interest and get some opinion. Is there anyone out there that would like to try something new when it comes to setting up their HOTAS? If there is, and you're interested in what you see, be aware that the HOTAS that you see, which is my own one, the X52, can be supported. There's no other HOTAS is supported at the moment. I would need someone to get involved. Well, maybe not necessarily. I could get the data for a HOTAS and the image, certainly. And someone could potentially test it if I give them the instructions. I do like the idea of having more HOTAS though. So we'll cross that bridge when it comes. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to acquire more hardware. Um, right, so I'll go through the OmniCore's HOTAS overlay. Well, it's actually the peripheral configuration view. And OmniCore itself has a dashboard with other areas, including the Star Citizen general settings area and a ship database with an idea, an innovative, I think is an innovative idea. However, it may not have as much use as I initially thought it would. A lot has been developed since the last time I was among the Star Citizen community. Some fantastic apps and websites out there offering various alternatives to spreadsheets. Thank goodness. And yeah, here's another alternative to hopefully making HOTAS configuration fun and a step to syncing the profile between all folders, the live, the PTU, and eventually Squadron 42. I'm predicting that CIG are not going to sync our profile, so OmniCore can do that for you. Right, so here we are on the peripheral config screen. Now, something that you would notice in any development I do is this HC05, not specifically HZ05, but the fact that that's there on the title. I use that as a reference. It just shortens the typing. And it also allows me to create a sort of matrix between features and create, okay, I'm going on a tangent now. uh, it's just good for mapping, let's just say, on a technical level. So the first feature are our profiles. So these are the ones that are stored in the Star Citizen folder. I'm currently on my Logitech X52 profile, and over here we have at the beginning the AI generated optimal X52 Leo. I considered the possibility that it could just do it. um, it's probably not going to work, right? And there is some enjoyment in configuring our own HOTAS. Only when you do it many times over the period of more than a decade, it this is what it leads to, basically, the creation of an entire app. Right, should I move on? You're probably wanting to see something happening. So here we go. I'll use one of the rotaries to begin with. We can see that it detects a rotary, and up there the number is, I wouldn't say it updates as fast as it probably does within game. Don't think we'll need to, we won't need rotaries or the axis to be intercepted by the app and then send an additional or change the signal that's being sent to the game. Something I can go into depth with. I'll mention it. I will mention that again in regards to button presses in a moment. This is this is a quick run through. I'll try to avoid going into too much technical, but I'm happy to answer questions. I'll use the point of view hat. As you can see, I'm pushing up, east, and down. What else? Oh, here's, no, I won't show that just yet. I'm having fun. So now, obviously, every HOTAS is different. So as I'm pressing some of the features of my HOTAS, it might not make any sense compared to. If anyone knows the X52, I'll scroll down. Right now, I'm using the. See, now you're seeing other parts. I just want to. Yeah, it's it's a Heart 3. Heart 3 it is. Go back up. We'll get back. We'll go back down there in a moment. Don't worry. So I'm using Heart 3 now. If we hover over these indicators, it gives us some of the technical information. Starting with the name, and all the rest is the technical information between the browser, which is the gamepad value. We have the Windows input and the other values that the input might be recognized by. There was some confusion in putting all that together. Sometimes we were working with an array that began with 0, that's the browser, and Windows begins with 1 and so on. It sounds quite standard, but somehow at some point on many, many occasions, it caused a sort of desync in the values and so on. So I've gone through each and every input multiple times in order to correct some of that desync. What else? Oh, this is when I'm wishing I had the camera on the HOTAS, like some streamers do. Some of my fave streamers. And what is... Let's just move down now. I think you get the point. Um, and I'll go into explaining the intercept thing that I mentioned because that's very important. That's what gives us, at least on a HOTAS, on with a HOTAS that offers modes, like my one does. And I've only used one HOTAS for at least a great period of time. I've had a brief shot of some, but not so much so that I would know if they all have modes. I would guess they do. So I'll get into that in a moment. But next is the overlay. The overlay is where I have what I call hotspots, and these are movable. This is how I position and label each part of the HOTAS. I haven't finished developing this. I have the idea of being able to right click on these hotspots and assign a feature to that hotspot. So it's a very quick way of interacting with the HOTAS image and assigning whatever we want to it. Almost tangible, right? Could you imagine if you just press a button on your HOTAS and then select what you want to be bound with that? We're almost there in a sense. And actually, in a way, it wouldn't take much to make it voice, but it's not. So the hotspots allow me to configure the specific positioning for my HOTAS. The button that allows me to do this is down here. That's the drag and drop disabled. I can no longer drag and drop the hotspots. Now, I designed it this way so that I can support any HOTAS. And that's the next step, is making a connection with the community, getting that first request to add the next HOTAS, and figuring out how best to do that. I can provide instructions on how to make that work. Although the intention was so that this enable resize and drag button isn't available for everyone to avoid some confusion. That said, I think most people are smart enough to know that there's no need to use this. And someone may want to move them around a little. So I don't know. Yeah, you would have seen that. It's a backup save. As you can see, it is failing at the moment. It has worked and saves the positioning of all all hotspots to a file within the app itself, so that that file and the positions are part of the package. And it'll be a case of going through any HOTAS that I'm given, adding that to the app, and when it's first configured, those positions will be saved. And so we only really have to do it once. If anyone chose to do that, ideally they would share that configuration and be part of the development. What else? I haven't actually demonstrated drag and drop. There we go. Resize. There's the other thing. Actually, I'll show you one down here. it shows what the input has been assigned to. So this one, as you can see, is assigned to the landing system. Now, I'm very big on identifying inputs, especially in the early development, to, to confirm that the the app is detecting the correct input, and it just looks cool, at least to me. So if I just, in fact, hair trigger is shown as already active, which it shouldn't. So I'm pressing button A, and I will press B, C, pinky switch. D is on the. It's been so long. D is. So as you can see, I'm going through them all in order, and it's identifying. Now the idea of this table is to assign and bind in reverse. So rather than scrolling through Star Citizen features, doing the right click and pressing the key, we find the HOTAS input and click the menu and find the Star Citizen feature. And this is generally how I work in when it comes to anything involving data. I try to flip it around and approach things from the other direction. That doesn't actually work at the moment. It's not taking the input. But you can see the the features that are bound to HOTAS input and what that's going to look like and how easy it could be to set up to get set up. Now, a complex feature and fun are modes. So the modes on my HOTAS and probably many HOTAS include three lights. So there is a green, orange, and red light. The purpose of this is to set up completely different profiles. We call it modes because when we're in game, it, it will feel more like a mode. But it essentially does create three separate profiles. And the way that works is the ARP will intercept the input. So whatever we press on the HOTAS will be processed by the ARP checking what is assigned to that input within the mode or the mode profile, and then the ARP will send the signal to the game. Now, I don't know what time delay there is within that. I haven't gotten to a stage where I've not done anything about that, but we'll need to, and that's really only important if someone's determined to use this. And I would like to use it for mining and the less combat stuff. I would be hesitant to use, and I would be hesitant to intercept signals until I know for sure that there is not a delay, uh, at least a delay that you would notice. So clearly some testing is required, but I still feel it's a useful feature. We can switch to, for example, I plan to switch to orange when I'm mining, and some of the HOTAS inputs that I would use in combat will send a different signal to the game and essentially tell the game to do something else. I think that made sense. And give me a moment.